started. Before we get to the Brandon train, obviously we're going to be talking about l'Europe and France. Oui, oui. The French elections took place and the parliament is in le deadlock. However, the far right, the nationalists, they had a bad time, very bad. Okay, merde. Poo-poo caca. Okay, let's start.
There's also political uncertainty in France this morning, where a right-wing political...
I'm trying to get Hugo de Crypte to come on and, Hugo de Crypte to come on and explain stuff, but he hasn't responded to my DM.
Are you going to do your French accent when he's here?
I have done it in front of them many times when they visited, and anyway... But we'll see. I'm trying to get him. I'm trying to link up with our international correspondents.
Political party had been expected to take control of parliament after a second round of voting. Instead, get this, a left-wing coalition won the largest share of seats, but that is still not enough to take full control. This could mean political paralysis for France's president, Emmanuel Macron. Elaine Cobb has more.
Leftist supporters gathered in central Paris last night to heave a collective sigh of relief as the exit polls showed the French far-right's dream of taking power had been dashed, proclaiming it a victory for the values of the French Republic.
Someone on Twitter said like they have this rally. They had a video from this rally. I forget who it was, but someone on Twitter, one of my moots, said it's so beautiful that these guys at this rally have direct identical DSA guys in San Francisco. Like this literally looks verbatim 1-to-1 DSA. Okay.
I heard George Soros was cloning people.
It's just
that's the only way he fills up the crowd.
Dude, this looks identical to a DSA meetup, like a DSA rally. Okay, I'm not even joking.
On the sidelines, masked protesters clashed with.
This, on the other hand, does not. Unfortunately, Americans do not embody the revolutionary spirit that the French do. Regardless of what they're rioting for, but let's
police. As the count continues, the combined left group is tipped to take the most seats in Parliament.
Relieved more than anything. Really overwhelmingly relieved.
Like that's a DSA guy. That is 100%
No,
DSA
there's
guy.
a difference. I haven't seen the ear stretches in like 20
the
years.
gauges? No, Americans love gauges too. That's a DSA guy through and through. Okay, like this is just like. The entire crowd is comprised of Hasanabi heads in France. I swear to God. Like,
overwhelmingly relieved.
President Macron's centrist alliance came in second, but will still have fewer seats than before. In a shock result against the predictions, the far right trailed in third as left and centrist voters turned out in force to block them. But it still made historic progress and is tipped to take 60% more seats than in the last elections. However,
yeah, be careful, Hasi. This is what we look like. I know. That's why I'm saying, like, they look identical to, like, you guys here. Straight up.
Is destined to be in opposition to whatever coalition President Macron can pull together. How likely are we to get the left working together?
This will be this very, very hard to predict. I mean, really, you're looking into dense fog. Some of these less radical MPs will join forces perhaps with the Socialists and the Greens and the Communists and form a government which could perhaps rest on the support and part of Macron's party in the parliament.
President Macron will have his work cut out for him forming a government, and he has vowed not to work with the far left, who made significant gains last night.
Yeah, shut up. You have to. Like, what do you mean you're not going to work with them? Like, I don't understand. What are you looking at?
Food.
Oh, what are you doing over there? You looking at Discord memes or some shit?
Photos of you.
Yeah.
From very close.
Okay, nice. Yeah, the idea is like, oh, I will not work with the far left. Okay, so you're just gonna deadlock the country. Good move. That'll certainly be a good move for the centrists. I love that.
For CBS Mornings, Elaine Cobb, Paris.
The new Popular Front, a coalition of several parties, won 182 seats in the National Assembly.
To be fair, though, it's like he is not afraid of being unpopular. If there's one thing that Macron actually does not mind, it's being despised universally. Okay, roundly despised. He does not have any issues with that. Democracy Now! Episode on the French elections. Okay, we'll look at that as well.
Making it the largest bloc. It doesn't have an absolute majority, though. None of the blocs do. President Emmanuel Macron's centrist Ensemble alliance got 163 seats, whilst Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally and its allies got 143 seats. And it's worth noting National Rally will be the largest individual party
so they didn't all drop out
in the new parliament. So it will be the official
The centrists are still there, going strong.
Yeah, no, they didn't fully drop out. They did a parliament members seat swap. So like in areas in districts where like the centrists were doing better, then the leftist candidate would drop so that everyone would vote for the centrist. In districts where the leftist candidate was doing better, the centrist candidate would drop so that everyone would vote for the leftist.
And there were just more districts where the leftists were doing better.
Yeah, and the reality is like obviously even the centrists that won due to the leftists that voted for them. And vice versa, but for the most part it's like given the fact that the centrist party is like objectively the centrist coalition is objectively unpopular. It was mostly the left carrying everyone. Macron worked to stop it while the ex-prime minister pushed for the centrists to drop. I don't know if you saw yesterday, but Macron was actively working against the dropouts. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I've seen some coverage of that. Overall, I have seen some coverage of that. According to the numbers, roughly 40% of the centrists voted for the left when 70% of the left voted for the centrists, by the way. As always, as is the case. That part I did see. As in the Bernier busters, the narrative that was set in the United States of America in the 2016 election was a falsehood back then. And that has been a universal thing that happens all the time.
Wait, that means that 60% of centrists voted for Le Pen?
Or just didn't vote. Macron doesn't have to select the prime minister from the NFP, especially since there's no absolute majority. It is the only way not to deadlock the country, though. So doing otherwise would probably get him guillotined. That's the thing. That is why I'm saying Macron does not give a shit about coming across as the absolute least popular person on the planet. Like he literally lives for that shit. So who knows? He has denied the will of the people time and time again. Ironically, this election was also a surprise to his own party even. He is absolutely awful. I mean, he is famously very, very, very awful and very unpopular. That's why his centrist coalition lost a shit ton of seats. So we'll see. Yeah, in no universe did Macron's gamble work. He lost 80 MPs. Everyone in his own camp hates him. And the left's new popular front, he vilified during the campaign, calling them anti-Republican and anti-Semitic, is now the first political force in France. But, of course, the Ukraine flag in the bio, people are still coping. Oh, my God, you guys gambled, worked because the principles and the efforts of the left wing who have won a clear mandate to govern. Stop retweeting this to congratulate Ensemble. Okay, I guess it was a misunderstanding from this person, as in like to defeat the far right. But I don't think he was gambling to defeat the far right. I think he was gambling to defeat the far right with his own constituency. He thought that he could do better in the first round. He thought that he wouldn't be third place in the first round. And then when he came third place in the first round, obviously there were enough people loyal to unseating the right in his own party that they dropped out and stepped out of the goddamn way. When are you going to invite French streamer Cassandre, an activist at La France Insoumise, to explain all the betrayals made to La France Insoumise by the Green Party, the Communist Party, and the Socialist Party? Explains the LFI organizations that made this victory possible. Probably, I don't know, maybe in the future. Who knows? Thank you, The Majority Report, for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Uncle Sam and Majority, hope you guys had a good one. We are burning through this. We're going to continue. Maybe he took the gamble because the EU elections have horribly low turnout rates. No, it's unimaginably stupid. Insoumise? Is it Insoumise or Insoumise? La France Insoumise. Stop trying to read Macron's mind. His thoughts are too complex for you peasants to understand. I am a part of the media, so technically he is right. His thoughts are far too complex for me to understand. Listen, we are not going to shit on the new popular front today. Okay? We are not going to shit on the new popular front today. Why are we not going to shit on the new popular front today? We're not going to shit on the coalition today because they did actually over La France Insoumise originally, and I covered that broadly last election cycle. And this time around, they very quickly got together and they got their ducks in a row. They got their shit together, and they did something that was unimaginable. They showed up in solidarity. There was left unity for once. So I think that this is a one-off. Who knows what the governing coalition is going to look like? Who knows what the new Popular Front infighting is going to look like? Having said that, however, they did it. They literally did it. And the moment that they actually did it was a good moment. It was a moment of celebration. They did unity, and guess what? When that unity came through, the left won. It's the strongest, the New Popular Front is the strongest political force in France as of today, as of yesterday. That's huge. That is undeniable. Okay? I'm sorry. That is, in a sea of political pessimism, you know me. I am probably the least optimistic person out of most political commentators. It is not because I lack the revolutionary optimism within me or anything like that. It's because as a leftist who's been doing this for a decade plus, I am used to taking L's. I'm used to seeing the left fight one another, and I'm used to seeing opportunists in general regularly over a broader leftist momentum. I see it in this community as a microcosm of that very same problem that persists. So this is one of the few instances. This is one of the few instances where a good thing happened. Okay? So yeah, I'm gonna stand on that. And I'm going to, cover it with the possible optimism that it deserves. And I am more optimistic about the French situation than I was about Labor. And Labor is even low-key kind of under the direction of Keir Starmer, showing a different face than the way Keir Starmer ran a campaign so far. And, I'm always going to be honest with you. If that's if I was wrong, I will recognize it. I will admit it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Keir Starmer and Labour in the UK. But, there's some promising things happening in the UK as well, which is shocking to say. Shocking to admit. All right, let's continue.
After the first round of voting, the far right's run to power was undone by tactical deal-making between centrist and leftist opponents. More than 200 candidates withdrew from the second round to avoid splitting the anti-National Rally vote. Now, the National Rally's Marine Le Pen says the party's victory has only been delayed.
The quagmire that I warned about has, of course, come true. France will be totally blocked with three groups that have more or less the same influence.
Yeah, that's not what you were afraid of. You were not afraid of a political quagmire. You were afraid of Muslims coming in and forcing you to put the hijab on or something, or whatever the you were running on. Okay. Yeah, no, she's trying to still dial it in a more centrist. She's trying to reposition as a centrist here, like a center right candidate, and not the far right freak that she is. Okay. That's the only reason why she's talking about a political gridlock. It sucks.
I love the cope of warning that it was going to happen. You're trying to be the winner, and you're just as I thought, a quagmire.
Yeah. She's not really afraid of the things she's selling to her constituents. I think she is a die-in-the-wool straight up. I do. I think she is just recentered. I think she has basically recentered her or dialed back her overt anti-Semitism and overt far-right sentiment. Her dad was a literal. I'm sorry, guys. What are we doing here? She's literally carrying the same torch. The party is a nationalist party. They call themselves the Nationalist Party. When you do that, and your dad is a straight up, and you defend your dad regularly, and you yourself have said a bunch of shit early on in your career, I'm not thinking that you're probably rehabilitated, okay?
But also, if she was just an opportunist using it, she definitely would have just pretended she liked soccer. I feel like she's honest.
That's a good
she's
take.
An honest
yeah,
person.
She's honest. If she had better political instincts, she wouldn't have like shit on Mbappe and instead been like, oh, he brings great glory to France.
Yeah.
But she couldn't even white knuckle through like giving props to a black man. Okay.
She's more racist than the most woke Polish man.
Yeah. Exactly.
He could have at least said,
believe me, there are good black people. Believe me.
She could have said Mbappe was a good one.
Yeah.
She can't do that.
She couldn't even do that. Yeah. Yeah, they should make that Polish man the leader of the Nationalist Party.
National Assembly. Well, we're going towards that. It's sad. We're losing one more year of unregulated immigration, one more year of losing purchasing power, one more year of a blowing up of insecurity in our country.
So the only aspect of this that there is a little bit of truth here is the fact that if Macron deliberately sabotages the mandate that the New Popular Front has come out with, because Mélenchon came out and said, we have our mandate, we have our policies, you can look at our manifesto, we are going to do all of that. We are going to bring the prices down, we're going to do price checks, we are going to increase the minimum wage in this country, we are going to make life infinitely more affordable for the average French working class person. We're going to tax the rich. Now those are very bold and broad, and dare I say, unfortunately, given the time frame and given the way that French politics works, those are radical claims. Even though they're not radical at all. They are technically quote unquote radical claims in a world where it is impossible to do good things and only possible to do bad. So if Macron personally, and he probably will try to sabotage this coalition, if they refuse to co-sign, if they refuse to coalesce, if they refuse to collaborate with the New Popular Front, I am afraid that will only take the centrist stink that currently exists in France and rub it all over the New Popular Front, and will only give a stronger position to the far right.
You've cracked Macron's complex thinking.
Yeah, it does seem like he's gonna. Yeah. Now I don't know the intricacies of French parliament and parliamentary politics. I don't know the intricacies of how much power technically the president versus the prime minister, and how the parliament works, how much broad power the president has over the parliament. And if there is a way to, I don't know, call for a referendum and take out Macron if he does not respond to the wishes of the public, as we saw in this election. So maybe there's an opportunity there for the New Popular Front to gain more momentum, gain more power. We'll see what happens. But I will, of course, especially celebrate that I was wrong. Because this is something that I've been warning about for quite some time. Okay, this is something that I have seen coming up in every European country, including France. I've talked about Le Pen rising to a position of prominence over the course of the past couple of years, almost a decade now, where the reality is her singular party, right, got 10 million individual votes. Now, of course, the totality of the votes when tabulated between the New Popular Front and also the centrist coalition is 12 million in comparison to the 10 million that they got. But that is a singular party that got 10 million votes. That's a far right party that got 10 million votes. That is genuinely devastating for French politics and the future of French politics, unless the liberals now recognize that they have to change course in an effort to, stave off further radicalization, further economic instability. This is legitimately scary, just like reform is legitimately scary in the UK. So the very same criticisms that I have, or the very same concerns that I have for British politics, exist in French politics as well. If the Labour Party is operating with their center-right manifesto that Keir Starmer put forward, if they do that, if they get this, now they have this mandate, now they have this, momentum. If they don't take advantage of that momentum and start immediately improving the material conditions of working class British people to try and combat this radicalization actively, if they do not do this, then Reform will take advantage of the opportunity in the UK and gain more prominence, especially when I suspect the Conservatives are going to start normalizing, maybe repositioning some of their worst political instincts, especially when it comes to immigration. We already saw that with Rishi Sunak and his Rwanda plan. Keir Starmer has put an end to that immediately, which is good. But it doesn't stop there. You also have to. It's not just blocking and pushing. You also have to push politics in the positive direction, in a leftist direction, in a progressive direction. If you don't do that, and if you don't show people your work, you will only continue the volatility, and more people will join Reform in the UK, and more people will join the Nationalist Party in France. Very, very scary stuff overall. That's still a concern that I have, even though this was another thing. This was definitely a thing that I thought was going to happen this time around, and it didn't, so that's great.
But if we need to go through that, then we'll go through that.
Let's head over to the Prime Minister's office. Gabriel Attal is submitting his resignation today. He will, though, continue his duties as long as needed, and Jim Bitterman is outside his office there.
So Gabriel Attal submitted his resignation, and Macron refused. He said, no, you're going to keep doing it. You're going to keep doing the damn thing. Why? Because he has incredibly complex thoughts. Well, with the results of this election, it's unreasonable to expect that they'll adopt the entire NLF platform. This is parliamentary politics, and if a government gets sworn in by Macron, it'll need to be based on some compromise with ministers from both parties. The coalitionary negotiations that'll take place will really be the tough part, and we'll see how much ground he's willing to give. Exactly, but we'll see. That's why I'm saying, it's entirely dependent on, it's sad to say, but it's entirely dependent on the Jupiterian, the incredible mind of Macron and what his ambitions are. Is he going to cast aside any kind of progress in the right direction? Or is he going to, or is he going to allow is he going to allow at least certain aspects of the New Popular Front's manifesto to come into fruition? Okay. Yeah. 60 chests from the legendary imperial mind of Macron. All of their public statements right now, I won't work for the far left, etc., are just about trying to position themselves for more power. They will compromise in the end. The parties have already shown that they can, given that they drop candidates. Yeah, I think so too, but who knows? It comes down to, who do you hate more? Will you align with the fascists, as liberals historically have, or will you actually give ground to socialists, which they historically do not? Okay? The only unique aspect of this is that Macron did not openly collaborate with the far right and open up the floodgates for this nationalist momentum in France. And instead, whether he wanted it or not doesn't really matter. His party said, no, we are going to collaborate with the socialists and with the New Popular Front in general, no matter how scared we are of their scary leftist agenda. In France, it's tradition for the prime minister to resign after a legislative election, but since the negotiations are happening and we can't have no prime minister, it's normal that Macron refuse until a new prime minister is appointed. Let the guest talk. Bro, what do you want? He can talk if he wants to. It's not like I'm shutting him up.
I know nothing about France.
Yeah, what do you want him to do? Just chirp?
He may continue for quite a while.
I was here for the Costco guys.
Yeah.
The process
I don't know what's going on.
Finding a prime minister is very complicated now.
Absolutely, Max. But in fact, we're not at the prime minister's office. We're inside the National Assembly courtyard. I just wanted to show you how things are going to transpire in about 4 hours from now when these new deputies, 577 deputies who were officially elected yesterday, actually some of them were already elected from the previous week on the first round. Anyway, they're going to come through those blue-gray doors back there. And they've got a sign out front that says this way for the deputies. And then they're going to come through here. They've got, they're starting to prepare things to sort of get the security check and to get the ID check that goes with getting access to the National Assembly. They've got a little coat rack room back here that they can put their coats in, or they can put their luggage, because some of these people will be coming in from all over the country, and some places outside the main country of France and in the territories, the overseas territories. And so there's going to be people trickling in probably for the next day or two. Eventually, all 577 though will take up offices in there. They'll get their housing vouchers if they need them. Basically, the National Assembly has a lot of studio apartments that they let the members use if they need them. Some of them are from Paris, of course, they don't need them. In any case, that'll be all taken care of. Logistics will be taken care of in the next day or two. Tomorrow, they'll get a calendar of events. And of course, as you mentioned, Max, one of the things that we're all going to be watching for is this left-wing group, this alliance, a very rough alliance, that took the most seats. 182 of the 577 seats belong to the new Popular Front, as it's called, but it's made up of 5 individual parties. And one of the most extreme parties is headed by a guy named Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He wasted no time yesterday claiming the prime ministership. Here's what he had to say.
La volonté du peuple doit être dorénavant stricte.
Now the will of the people must be strictly respected. From now on, no tricks, backroom deals, nor combinations would be acceptable. The lesson to be taken from the vote is definitive. The defeat of the president and his coalition has been confirmed with clarity. The president has the power. The president has the duty to call on the new Popular Front to govern.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the president's problem is going to be if he wants the extreme left in power. I don't.
This guy's awesome.
Holding the newspaper.
Yeah.
I think he does. But
Maintenant,
this
on
is
fait quoi?
the award for the headline of the day has to go to Le Parisien, because they said, and now what? What do we do? What do we do now with a very perplexed-looking Mr. Macron on the cover?
By the way, the French Justice Department said Mélenchon is only a leftist and not extreme left. Every Republican moron is using the term. Yes, it's bullshit. I know that already. I know that from my own personal experiences. Depending on how far right you are, on the spectrum, you literally, Americans think Nancy Pelosi is a socialist. Americans think Jeff Bezos is a socialist, okay? Like, it's entirely dependent on who the you're talking to, who's like how stupid they are and how right-wing they are, that they think like, oh, this guy's crazy. Like, they also call him an anti-Semite, and you know what that means, obviously. You know, oh, God forbid you have any opinions on the humanity of Palestinians, then oh wow, well there it is, like a classic case of anti-Semitism. But you know, that's besides the point. Let's continue.
That's exactly what's confronting France right now. Who is going to be the prime minister, and which one of these many party groups is going to really represent the government of France? Max?
Jim, thank you. A question we're going to put to Danielle Obono.
The left has not won. We have not won anything. The RN had no seats in 2002, now has 130. They are everywhere in mainstream media. They're supported by some of Macron's ministers like Darmanin. We still have a far-right political system. I mean, it's still... Macron has collaborated with the RN and far-right in general for his 2 mandates. Darmanin was a royalist and far-right militant. There's also... The LFI is led by Mélenchon, not NFP. This is frustrating as right now. And then you also talked about some far-right billionaire who owns like a lot of the media there, I think, right? I'm French. Hello, check how many murders and racist aggressions are going on right now by RN supporters. They're literal terrorists. I saw that as well. The media briefly glanced on that coverage and basically said, oh, there were some riots in France. But you know, it seems like there are a lot of people who are, wait, you support the far left communists in France? I support the far left communists everywhere. Okay. Everywhere, not just in France, across the board. The further left you go, the better for me. Okay. 100%. Just like I support the top of the hour ad break. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Darmanin is the #1 financier of the GUD, a far-right terror group. Yeah, I think that, like I said, it is genuinely scary. It is genuinely scary. It is genuinely scary how much momentum the far right has. Okay, it's true. This is definitely true. Anyway, what's also true is that you will be seeing a 3-minute ad break right now unless you subscribe. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Okay, let's continue. Twitch Prime is free, folks. Yardley Fudge Rounds. Thank you for the 5. Get the subs. The billionaire question is Vincent Bolloré. If you find a video about him, it is crazy. Okay, we'll do the TLDR news French election analysis after this.
She is a member of parliament with France's Unbowed party, led by Mélenchon. You were with him last night. He was pretty quick off the blocks. Within minutes of the projection coming out, he was out claiming victory. What was that like?
That was a pretty intense feeling.
Yeah.
I think everybody was both relieved and very overwhelmed by everybody being so happy, and also we felt that we were at a turning point in our country's history, and we managed to beat the odds and win and defeat the far right, which what everybody predicted they would win, and the people rose up and said, not today, they're not going to win this time, nor ever. So that was a very powerful moment.
That was very successful, the way the parties on the left and in the middle ground came together to squeeze out the far right. But you also had a very strong turnout. So are you finding that people were really quite shocked by that first round election with the National Front, the far right actually coming out on top?
Yes, and I think for millions of people in this country, it was about their very lives that was threatened. And we had groups of far-right groups roaming the streets, threatening LGBT people, threatening migrant people. A lot of people were abused verbally and called names, and it was very a matter of life and death for a lot of people, and parents telling their kids that they should leave their country because it would be impossible to keep living in this country if the far right would win. So it was very, it was not something theoretical for us and many of us. So and I think that the fact that there was such a high turnout that people realized what was at stake and rose to this historical moment.
There were people in the centre ground that also didn't like your language either. You know, they're as worried about the far left as they are about the far right. What are you saying?
Classic, dude. Leave it up. Leave it to the American media to hit the notes that matter. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are worried about your language too. What is the far left language, by the way? Look, I know that there are some sus statements that Mélenchon has made about that are definitely that could be considered as anti-Semitic for sure. Okay, he's French. I don't know what else to tell you. I made a joke about this literally yesterday where I was like, his anti-Semitism is not seen as a burden, but a literal benefit in terms of the election, because we're in France. We're talking about French. We're talking about, the literal nationalist party being straight up defenders. Okay. Like it's unimaginable. Things that are like considered wild or things that are considered like outside of the boundaries of like normal permissible politics in America, like having an American party like run for a Republican candidacy, is like a one-off. It happens. It has happened time and time again, but like nowhere near the same severity as what you are seeing with a nationalist party winning 10 million votes. Okay, like it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy. Now, having said that, however, the extremist sentiment that he is asking about is, as far as I understand, okay, no, he says some like sus shit about Jewish people. Mélenchon has in the past, like way back in the day, but like nowhere near to the same severity as like the far right. But that's besides the point. That's not when they're talking about like extremist sentiments. They're talking about raising minimum wage. Like it's not like these guys' opinions are a secret. okay? Their opinions are not hidden. Here, let's look at what the scary things he said, okay? Don't know the New York Times said people find his program dangerous. The far left's proposed platform includes raising France's monthly minimum wage, lowering the legal retirement age from 64 to 60, building 1 million new affordable housing units in 5 years, and freezing the price of basic necessities, including food, energy, and gas. The state would also pay households all costs associated with their children's education, including meals at cafeterias, transportation, and extracurricular activities. They also said that they would do this, they would fund this by taxing the wealthy. Now, on top of that, the other extreme anti-Semitism that you hear from Mélenchon and others in the New Popular Front is literally a recognition of Palestinian statehood. So when these guys are talking about how anti-Semitic these guys are, or how extremist these guys are, that's what they're talking about. So none of their ideas are shocking, scary, or even radical, okay? That's it. And yet, the media apparatus across the board is going to turn around and present this as though it is genuinely terrifying because they're liberal pieces of shit. Their job is to uphold the capitalist hierarchy. Their job is not to look at this and go, well, for the current material conditions, I would say that this party platform is rather normal, if not necessary. Okay? Here, this is Sky News' analysis on it.
Is that he didn't come first. The French hard left came first. His Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, has resigned. And this parliament, if the exit polls are borne out, obviously the real results have to come in and there could still be a polling shock. This parliament doesn't have an obvious government in it. The hard left, quite understandably, is saying that actually, if they are going to get the prime ministership and if they're going to form a government, they want to be able to put in place their economic agenda. And, this is Britain. We have no idea what a left-wing French economic agenda looks like. It's like price controls, slashing the retirement age, completely opposed to what Macron has been trying to do over the past few years. But his problem is that he didn't come first.
Yeah, the hard left and their scary ideas. It seems that as of literally like 8 minutes ago, Jean-Luc Mélenchon has asked for a presidential election. We saved the republic. Without the government of the NFP, the RN would be in the government. The president of the republic cannot dissolve the assembly for 1 year. Only one other option exists: let him go and provoke a new presidential election. Yeah, slashing the retirement age is like lowering it from by 4 years, I think. Well, they increased it to 65, right? What was Macron increasing it to? I think it was what? It was 65, and then Macron increased it regardless of the endless riots. So they wanted to lower it back. It went 64, from 62 to 64. So they wanted to lower it from 64 to 60, right? It was 62. Macron put it to 64. NFP wants to lower it to 60. Okay. So slashing it dramatically. So more debt? Yes, dude. More debt. Shut the up. I hate this argument, dude. Like, you are not the French bank, okay? You are not the Central Bank of France. You are not Macron. You are not in a position of power, okay? What the are you arguing about? You're like literally right now, you are personally saying, I want to be able to work until I'm 64, until I'm 70. Why not increase it to 70 then? Like, you are a peasant, dude. This debt conversation is so beyond your realm of comprehension. You read one micro or macroeconomic textbook and you think you are a analyst. And it causes you to unironically argue against your self-interest. You are a worker, okay? You are working class. You will most likely be, for the rest of your life, working class. This is a good thing for you, okay? It doesn't make any sense. It's literally like let's say there's politician A and politician B, okay? Politician B is saying, we need to take more money from the poor. Politician A is saying, no, actually, we need to give more money to the poor, as a matter of fact, and take more money from the rich. You are poor, and you're literally going, no, I think politician B is actually eating right now. He's more reasonable. I don't deserve more money. Give the more money to the wealthy. They know how to be productive with it. It's so stupid. It makes no sense. And I know that's reductive, but ultimately that is what you are doing. It's not feasible. They're just fairy tales. Yeah, dude, I know. Because neoliberal austerity economics is not a fairy tale. It's reality, right? It's working so goddamn well so far globally. No. You have been convinced that your cuckoldry, okay, to the current existing system is actually somehow making you a profound thinker. Like you are thinking in your mind that you are being intellectual in this situation. You're not. To me, a dumb guy that at least goes, no, I want more food on my table. I want more money. What the are we talking about? Is infinitely smarter than you. Okay? Even an animal in the wild has this kind of natural instinct of self-preservation, whereas humans, for some weird reason, do the exact opposite and think it is like actually brilliant. You're not. You've been duped into thinking that advocating against your best interest is unimaginably intellectual. It's not. Sometimes it is that simple, okay? The real scary part of this conversation, okay, is that then in defense, the second conversation takes place. When I bring this up and I say, you are being a peasant, you're not in this club, you are advocating against your best interest. To make up for the budget shortfall, there's always an opportunity. You tax the wealthy. So then you say, well, the wealthy are always going to avoid taxes. They're going to take their assets away from France. That's insane. You're not a multimillionaire. You're not a corporation. You don't own Carrefour. You're not Mr. Carrefour, okay? You're Mr. Poor. You're not Mr. Carrefour. So why the are you talking about how scary it is that the wealthy could take their assets away from France and shelter them elsewhere? If that's the case, then you take action against them. What kind of up system are we living under? And this happens in America too. That's why I'm saying, like, you're ridiculous. This happens in America all the time. Oh, well, what if the wealthy shelter their asses? What if they take the asses away? It's like, bro, what are you talking about? Then jail them. What do you mean? We have a system of rules. Make the rules and then legislate and regulate. What are we talking about? Like, the thing that you advocate for, the fear that you have that guides you into this advocacy, unironically means that you are docile. You are servile under a system where the wealthy have a gun and are holding the entire economy hostage. That's ridiculous. Aren't you French? Didn't you guys invent the guillotine? What the are we talking about? These love raising up a stink when, you know, there's like additional taxes or anything that happens in the country, okay? They flip tables at a moment's notice, but when it comes down to like what, punishing the wealthy if they're tax avoiding, then it's like, oh, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable. It's not unthinkable. You should start thinking it, okay? I don't understand why we are so cognitively impaired by our lack of imagination of a better way possible. People are so sedated and so limited in their imagination. Oh, the wealthy will take their asses away. No, they won't. If the government has your best interest in mind, they're the government, okay? They'll take it. Just take the assets. Who gives a shit? What are we talking about? I thought these were supposed to be French. I thought this is what you do. I thought this is what you did. This is what you're famous for. It's so unimaginably fearful and cynical to always assume that we cannot make wealthy people pay their fair share. We are so unimaginably cucked to this like reality. And I understand where it comes from because constantly there is a reinforcement of this scary reality, this scary alternative where the demigod mega wealthy just basically have the economy held hostage. They'll just take their money away. They'll take their money elsewhere. It's like, no, they can't. You're the government. Why is there a system of like a military force, a police force, a tax structure if you can't actually make it work for yourself. It's as simple as literally writing new rules, okay? Because as a poor person, if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail, okay? So why is it that when a rich person does it, it's like, well, you know, they wrote the rules that way? It makes no sense. Write new rules. I've said this for America a million times over, okay? The United States of America is the largest economic consumer engine on the planet, okay? There's so much wealth here. There's so much money here. Everyone wants to enter this market. That includes American corporations. If our government wasn't so goddamn servile to the interests of corporations, they could literally say, oh, you're taking your assets away because we increased the tax burden for you? That sucks, man. I guess you can't enter the American marketplace any longer then. Solved. Problem solved. What are they going to do? Sell to India? Are they going to sell their incredibly expensive products to the Indian market? Like, is that what they're going to do? Is that they're going to make up for that shortfall? No shot. Like, it's just like the average wealth that the American household has is unimaginable in comparison to the rest of the planet. Okay? We constantly eat. We constantly consume. China does that shit. Why can't America? This really scares me because the rise of leftist communist movements also leads to fascism coming into Law and Order. We already see so much fascism. Maybe you already said this, but sorry I got here. What's funny is what you're describing isn't even a communist position. I know. That's the craziest part. Like, it's not even... It's not even what I'm saying is not even radical. What I'm saying is not like, oh, workers need to seize the means of production. We're not even talking about that, you know? It's just normal policy that you could write overnight and put into place. Anyway, the irony is, even from a pro-capitalist perspective, having more meaningful freedoms for the average working class person would yield more productive outcomes across the board. But we are so nearsighted and so hyper-focused on our collective short-term gains for a select few that people can't even imagine a world where the government does stuff like that, okay? Like, maximizing efficiency. You can make a pro-capitalist argument to what I just described. But year over year, capitalism is this parasitic monster that basically focuses on shorter and shorter and shorter terms of profit seeking, making everyone's lives worse and worse. I don't understand it. The government is a profoundly powerful entity. And I think a lot of people forget that reality. Anyway, details reported in the piece for those who can't read. Macron's team mostly shrugged off results on Sunday. They started celebrating a birthday as the return still coming in. He didn't bother watching. Prime Minister Attal gave forceful speech calling the bloc far right. Attal began calling Macron his candidate who came in third but made runoff, asking him to drop out the consolidate versus far right. Attal surprised to realize Macron was calling some in parallel, asking them not to drop out. This would risk RN wins. Macron Interior Minister Darmanin, right of party, reportedly said organizing election on 7/7 is good because blédards, words for immigrants from North Africa, won't be around and won't vote left. Note, Darmanin and RN nearly tied in round one. Left dropped out, helping him to block RN. Another note on the prior tweet, the Interior Minister is also responsible for organizing elections. So Attal and Macron have had glacial relations since Macron's decision to call elections. We've known Attal didn't know about it till just before the public announcement. What this suggests to me is that if Borne or Philippe had still been Macron's prime minister instead of Attal this week, I think there'd be a lot more three-way runoffs this Sunday, and the far right would have been a lot likelier to get the majority. He didn't know at all. Good one. Why are you wearing a pastor shirt? I thought you were Muslim. It's not a pastor shirt. Fowlers, thank you for the 5 community gifted subs. The word he uses is extremely racist. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on in France. We'll talk about the far right tiers in a second.
To them today.
But first of all, we are the left as a whole, and
but your party's far left.
No,
it's
on the left, and our highest administrative courts said that we were the left, and the National Rally was the far right, which I think closed the debate. But most of all, it's not about the language or how bright is our smile or anything. It's about our platform.
As a blédard, I'll give you the blédard pass. Technically, wouldn't I be considered a blédard as well in France? Like, they're literally talking about like Algerians and Tunisians and shit, no? Also, literally North African white passing Muslim dudes. You're Turkish? Like, in the eyes of people who would use terms like that, I'm saying. Anyway, whatever. That's besides the point.
And I think we convinced people that our platform, what was needed in order to beat the fascists, but also to change people's lives. And that's what's the most important for us. We got elected on a mandate to make more social justice, to implement green policies in order to face climate change, and to change our system to make it more democratic. And I think that's the most important, rather than like language or the way we behave, supposedly behave. I think that's what people are looking for. And they will be very serious about what we're going to do next. That's what
your platform, your party's platform, has been very clear. The issue is that the platform of the left alliance that has come out of this isn't clear, and there's going to be a big struggle to decide on who is going to be the next prime minister. Mélenchon's obviously put himself forward, but how are you going to, none of the analysts I've spoken to say it's just not clear how you're going to agree with the moderates on who should replace the Attal.
But most of the analysts over the past 3 weeks didn't know they didn't see. They didn't want this coming, really, because we had the entire establishment media saying that we will lose and the far right will win. So I'd say to you, don't listen to those.
Well, to be fair, they did base a lot of that on the first round election, which was pretty clear.
Yes, but I think they underestimate the resistance that in our people's political history and identity to the far right. And also, I would say that our platform as the New Popular Front is basically most of our program from La France Insoumise, but also everybody agrees that that's what people are waiting for. And I think nobody actually read, from, in the media, the people talking about it, they weren't talking about what we actually put forward. We had over 300 high-level economists, among which the Nobel Prize in Economy, Esther Duflo, we had Gabriel Zucman, we had Thomas Piketty, who actually supported our program, said that was what needed in order to meet people's needs. And also, that was good for the economy. Just on that issue, we were proved to be way better than what Macron did over the past 7 years.
Can I ask you, because you have spent a long time trying to...
Here, let's do the TLDR one real quick. Let's look up French elections YouTube. France's insane
On Sunday,
election
France went to the poll.
Results explained. No, this is from 6 days ago. This is not the one. There's a new one, right? Yeah,
On
here.
Sunday, France went to the polls for the second and final round of the legislative election. In the end, despite an unprecedented victory in the first round, not only did Marine Le Pen's National Rally fail to win an outright majority in the National Assembly...
Wait, is my stream actually so quiet and it's hard to hear on mobile? What the f? Or is that just is that a one guy? Am I getting one guide? Dude, oh my God, I'm getting super one guide. Everyone said no.
Thanks largely to a record number of tactical alliances between centrist and left-wing candidates. But the new left-wing Popular Front coalition actually came out on top. So in this video, we're going to explain what happened on Sunday, the so-called Republican front that emerged over the past week, and what happens next. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. So let's start with a quick recap. We did a full video on the first round results last week, so go and watch that if you want to know more. But the TLDR is that the French National Assembly elections, which just happened, were held in 2 rounds. In each constituency, if no candidate won a majority of the votes in the first round, then the top 2, as well as anyone else who received votes equivalent to at least 12.5% of registered voters, go through to the second round, where whoever gets the most votes wins. Now, usually only 2 candidates go through to the second round, and 3 candidate runoffs, known in France as a triangulaire, are pretty rare. In 2017, for instance, there was only 1 triangulaire, and in 2022, there were only 8. However, this time around, that's not how things panned out, because turnout came in at a sky-high 67%, up nearly 20 points from 2022, and the highest since 1986. And the vote was also relatively evenly split between the 3 main parties in the first round, meaning that there were a ridiculous 306 three-way runoffs, and even 5 four-way runoffs. The vast majority of these triangulaires were between the right-wing National Rally, the left-wing NFP, and Macron's centrist coalition. But about 30 were between the National Rally, the MFP, and the centre-right Republicans, who outperformed the polls and won about 10% of the popular vote in the first round. This was all utterly unprecedented. The previous record for triangulaires was 105 in 1997, and the last time there was a 4-way runoff was way back in 1973. And that meant that what happened in the second round would depend more than ever on whether or not the various parties, and especially NFP and Macron's ensemble, could strike a deal to squeeze out the National Rally. And this is what's previously happened at previous French elections. At both the legislative and presidential level, centrist, left-leaning, and even centre-right parties like the Republicans have stepped aside for one another to keep out the National Rally and its predecessor Jean-Marie Le Pen's National Front. This cordon sanitaire is known in France as the Republican Front, and it's proven remarkably successful in the past. In the 2002 presidential election, for instance, after losing to Jean-Marie Le Pen in the first round, the socialists threw their support behind their nominal rival, Republican candidate Jacques Chirac, who then beat Le Pen with a ridiculous 82% of the popular vote. However, its efficacy has waned over time, and especially after Marine Le Pen succeeded her father in 2011 and began detoxifying the brand. In 2017 and 2022, for instance,
it took her more than a decade to detoxify the brand, and she didn't even detoxify the brand until like 2017. Like, her detoxification was like marginally less overtly, okay? Marginally less overtly. Like, her father was like a straight up, and she was also kind of a straight up. And only until like the last decade did she start retriangulating and just being like, yeah, the stuff, it's not so great. Yeah, no, the Holocaust did happen, I think. Maybe. Like, that's what we're talking about. And you might think I'm joking, but I'm being 100% verbatim about the Holocaust shit, okay? Like, it's not even, it's ridiculous. Yeah, the Front National was co-founded by literal Waffen-SS. Like, they still had people in the ranks that would just like chirp every now and then, but they were just like trying to, yeah, when I say, I mean like 1930s style governance. Detoxifying the brand, yet they kept the same logo and took the name of an affiliated parties of the 40s. Yep.
For instance, both the socialists and Republicans backed Macron over Marine Le Pen. But despite the backing of both establishment parties, Macron never enjoyed the
Actual quotes from our candidate's election via Reddit. I am not racist. My dentist is a Jew and my eye doctor is Muslim. I am not racist. A black priest blessed my motorbike and I didn't run him over. I am against abortions. Reminder for the non-French people, abortion has been set in stone in Constitution recently. We didn't kill enough talking about Jews, thinking his mic was off, I guess. Yeah. No, like, no. When I say, this is not like a dilution of the term when you say like, oh, every Republican is a fascist, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm talking straight, and not Republican in the French term. I mean like Republican in America. It can get a little confusing because the Republicans are like the center right here in this situation, or the right wing party. And then you have like the literal party. Yeah, Marine Le Pen sparks outrage over Holocaust comments in 2017 when she was retriangulating. Marine Le Pen's attempts to convince voters that she has modernized the views of her far-right Front National party have come into question after she questioned the French state's role in the Holocaust. Le Pen suggested France was not responsible for the wartime roundup of Jews who were sent to death camps. With just 13 days until the first round of voting in France's presidential election, her remarks have been met with widespread condemnation. Now, of course, she said that because technically, when she was saying that, she wasn't just defending like the broader French involvement, Vichy France, in its involvement in the Holocaust. She actually was defending her immediate relatives. When I say she was defending her immediate relatives and their involvement in the Holocaust, like, I mean literally her immediate relatives. I cannot stress this enough. When we talk about European politics, like, remember, World War II happened and people survived it on the bad side too. And some of those people who survived it on the bad side then came to positions of prominence, including Le Pen's family. Like, this isn't like American LARPing, okay? American LARPing on Stormfront and being like, yeah, we love Germany. We're going to do the Fourth Reich. I'm talking literally people who were directly involved with governance in their nations. When I talk about Italian fascists, for example, okay? When I talk about Italian fascists, we are talking sometimes direct descendants of Mussolini, like Mussolini's granddaughter, right? Or people who then joined fascist parties originally, like Meloni, who advocated for Mussolini in her youth. Okay, like this isn't someone who is just simply a sympathizer, which is bad enough on its own. These are people with like direct ties to existing historic fascist movements that never really went away. Okay, you're wrong. There were candidates during that election who got caught wearing a cap. Another one photographed when 18 with skinheads wearing a shirt with a Celtic cross. I mean, I don't know why you're saying I'm wrong. That's you're just giving me more information about how openly they are. Times of Israel. Le Pen, founder of the National Front Party and currently a legislator, said in a video posted on the party website that next time we will put him in an oven. When asked about French singer Patrick Bruel's criticism of the party, Bruel is Jewish. Yeah. Anyway, Le Pen's knife from Hitler's youth. He forgot Algeria where he tortured people. 50 years of the Algerian War. On the morning of March 3rd, 1957, Mohammed Sharif Malay, 12, discovered a dagger in the entrance of the hallway of the family home. Oh my God. Jean-Marie Le Pen's dagger. That's crazy. That's wild. Her piece of shit father was in my country in Algeria during the colonialization, kicking grandmas. Yeah. Also, the other irony of like that Times of Israel article that you just pointed to, the other side of this equation is that the current fascist government of Israel was looking at the far-right momentum in Europe with very positive attitudes. They literally openly, in this last iteration, in this last round of elections that have taken place, were welcoming the far-right momentum in Europe. Time and time again, people from the current existing Knesset, like members of the Knesset, were with regular frequency mentioning how dope it is that there are literal anti-Semitic fascists that are coming into positions of prominence in Europe. Okay? So that's another thing to remember. They were encouraging Jews in France to vote for the fascists, the demon you know. Yeah. Anyway. Stop calling everyone when you're trivializing that this person, there's no way this person could be one. Yeah, I'm just, look at me, little old me again, dude. Just calling everybody in, like literally, you know, how could I come up with such a ridiculous assertion all on my own here? What the f? That's crazy. What do you mean? Israeli officials are saying it's dope. Hassan. All right, let's
margins
continue.
that Chirac saw in 2002, winning just 66% in 2017 and just 56% in 2022. Perhaps more tellingly, in the 2022 parliamentary elections, Macron's centrist coalition refused to back the left-wing candidates from the NUPES coalition, which was led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon's France Unbound party. There were less runoffs in 2022, so the lack of goodwill between Macron and Mélenchon was less electorally significant. But it still helped the National Rally massively outperform polls in the second round, winning a record 89 seats. Anyway, this is why when the first round results were announced, it wasn't clear whether the cordon sanitaire would materialize. While Jean-Luc Mélenchon quickly came out and said that the NFP would pull out of any triangulaire where they were third placed, vowing not a single vote for the National Rally, Macron and his allies were a bit more equivocal. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal encouraged tactical voting in order to prevent the National Rally from having an absolute majority in the second round. But Macron himself only called for voters to rally behind candidates who are, quote, clearly Republican and Democratic, i.e. not candidates from France Unbowed. And Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said that France Unbowed are as dangerous as the National Rally. However, in the end, it seems like the Republican front actually emerged stronger than expected. By Tuesday night, the deadline for candidate withdrawal, 100...
Yeah, they did because the left voted for them. Like, that's why, you know. Like, leftist voters voted for them.
132 left-wing candidates had stepped down for centrists, and 83 centrist candidates had stood down for the left, including at least one candidate who stood down despite Macron personally telling them.
Look. There it is. Here it is. Prominent French Jews decry far left's election gains amid fears of new anti-Semitism. French rabbi advises young French Jews to move to Israel because of the mainstream discrimination. Dude, this system of like only caring about Israel's existence and tying Zionism to Judaism like this is so unimaginably bad. I have been openly talking about this for years at this point, and obviously I have talked about it quite more recently, like a lot more recently. This is genuinely going to make people significantly more anti-Semitic. I don't know like how I can shake some sense into some of these. It is so incredibly dangerous. French rabbi advises young French Jews to move to Israel because of mainstream discrimination. Journalist says NPF victory sends message of impunity to anti-Jewish Islamo-fascists. Anti-Jewish Islamo-fascists. Protesters hold banners reading "Women and Jewish Double Penalty" during a demonstration called by associations including SOS Racisme and Women's Foundation to denounce anti-Semitism in Paris en June after the alleged anti-Semitic of a 12-year-old in Paris suburb of Courbevoie? What the alleged anti-Semitic gang of a 12-year-old? What the That's crazy. The fear-mongering among French Jews serves the agenda of the Israeli state. Yes, I know. Why are we reading Times of Israel, lol? Because it's like insane. Islamic fascist is a word. Technically, Islamo-fascist is just gibberish. There was a pro-Israel deputy called Mayor Habib that lost his seat in the assembly yesterday. As I have said before, the gang bit is a lie, by the way. It was Christians. What? Christians and Jews responsible for the crime? What do you mean? That was real. A bunch of anti-Semites. The 12-year-old Jewish girl. I don't know about this story. Like, I don't know what happened. Obviously, regardless of the motivations of the criminals that did this heinous act, assuming that like every Muslim is doing this is psychopathic and also identical to the way white supremacists operated in the United States of America. For all of my American watchers, this is a story that you are very familiar with, okay? Oh, this black person, the white woman. All black people are responsible. Let's go kill some black people. That's usually how it works. That is the through line here. The notion that like the extremely violent acts of one singular person or a group of individuals does not reflect on the entirety of a population. You have to be the most racist person on the planet to assume that, to make that assertion. French media spun it on the assumption that it was Muslims responsible, but it came out the people responsible were also children. of Jewish and Christian descent. Oh, the kids who did that were white, so they stopped talking about it. They were French who did the not Muslims. They show their faces. Reported a Jewish girl linked to rising anti-Semitism in France. French authorities indicted two 13-year-old boys on charges of aggravated making religious insults and death threats and recording or sharing images of a sexual nature, among other crimes. Prosecutors said Wednesday a third boy, age 12, was charged with being an assisting witness there, as well as making religious insults and death threats. According to prosecutors, the girl said in a police interview that she had known one of the boys before the attack. In police interviews, all three of the boys expressed regret towards the girl without addressing their alleged involvement. That's so sad, dude. Activists call for a mass demonstration against anti-Semitism on Paris on Friday. French media reported more than 1,000 people attended the rally at Paris City Hall. The French far right has been itself historically linked to anti-Semitism. National Front Party founder Jean-Marie Le Pen was repeatedly fined for diminishing the gas chambers, a mere detail in the history of World War II. But his daughter Marine Le Pen has rebranded the party, moderating its tone and expanding its appeal. No, she didn't. This is also whitewashing Marine Le Pen, for the record. But this article does not mention that these are like Islamo-fascists doing this, or that it's like Muslim migrants doing this or some shit. Even though this article on Times of Israel makes it seem like that is the case, tying it to Islamo-fascism immediately after talking about the gruesome, heinous anti-Semitic of a 12-year-old girl. The French go to Algeria and say, this is ours, and this is literally a part of France now. You're all French. Please take one beret and one baguette. The French Muslims move to Paris because they are French, and France is like racism to 100. In France, Islamo-gauchist is kind of the equivalent of woke, even if woke have spread too. So both are used by the term right and far right to insult anyone not Islamophobic for them. Islamofascist is just a more dumb and unhinged version of it. Yeah. Yeah, many such cases. Diaspora Minister Amihai Chikli in a photo op with one of the RN leader Marine Le Pen from about a week ago. He took a gamble and lost. The poor guy is now using his timeline to post about far left activists and Muslims supposedly rioting. It's so, dude, get absolutely get Cumstered, you pieces of shit, you anti-Semitic dogs, you, okay? Oh my God. Bro, what the fuck is Islamofascism? I love covering European politics for a little bit because like Americans are in awe of the new and unique ways in which like Europeans are racist. Like obviously Islamophobia is fairly normalized in the United States of America. And then you like hear about the new ways in which like the average Swedish person, for example, feels about like Muslims. And you're like, what the is going on? Anyway, I am French. The far right uses murders committed by foreigners to feed their hatred, like that of Lola, whose family refused political recovery. A Frenchman criticizing a Muslim for rioting can't be more ironic. Islamo-gauchiste is the equivalent of the Judeo-Bolshevism of the 1930s when Jews were the enemies of the far right. And there was a Front Populaire in France back then too. Yeah. It has become like Muslims have been substituted for the all-powerful entity that is like also simultaneously like a roving gang of barbarian rapist monsters who are also simultaneously like the strongest force corrupting all of the institutions of higher learning and the media by telling people not to be ruthlessly racist towards them. Yeah. And you see that in pretty much every European country.
Them not to. This meant that there are only a handful of triangulaires left between the National Rally, Ensemble, and the NFP. Now, most people thought that this Republican front was never going to be as effective as it has been in the past, let alone totally effective. In other words, there was no way that 100% of first-round NFP voters were going to vote for Ensemble in the second round instead. Nor was there any chance that 100% of first-round Ensemble voters would lend their votes to NFP. This is because some of the more right-leaning Ensemble voters actually prefer the National Rally to the NFP, and some more anti-establishment NFP voters actually prefer the National Rally to Ensemble. However, in the end, it looks like
that is a wild thing to say. That's a wild thing to say when you have like actual voter patterns. Like they made this video 10 hours ago. It's not like they don't know what the voter patterns look like. That's just completely untrue. I mean, every type of voter exists. I know, but like bringing that up as though it's an important point is so stupid, because it's like the Bernie Trump voters. Exactly. It's dumb, because the Bernie Trump voters, the Bernie to Donald Trump voters, were so marginal and so insignificant. And this is something that we have relitigated 1,000 times over since 2016. A much larger percentage of Hillary Clinton voters in the primaries voted for John McCain in the election between Barack Obama and John McCain. Then Bernie voters voted for Donald Trump. A much larger percentage of Hillary Clinton voters voted against Barack Obama and voted for John McCain than Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders voters voted for Donald Trump, as opposed to Hillary Clinton. So the idea that like this is a prescient point, an important point to bring up, is so stupid. Okay? The difference is 4 times, about like 5% in NFP and 20% for Ensemble, who switched to RN. Who do you think is more likely to vote for the far right party? The right-wing constituency? Okay? Or the far left in their terms, the far left constituency? Who do you think is more likely to vote for the far right? And Mélenchon, as they brought up already, said not a single vote to RN from the jump. From the jump. Anyway, 75% of leftists went to vote for centrist right-wing candidates when it was necessary. Only 50% of Macronists did.
The Republican front worked remarkably well, and the National Rally ended up coming well short of a majority, which is clearly what Le Pen was hoping for after the first round. In fact, not only did the National Rally fall short of a majority, they actually lost to both the NFP and Macron's alliance. With the votes counted, the NFP are on 182 seats, Macron's alliance are on 168, and the National Rally on just 143. Of the remaining 84 seats, 45 went to the centre-right Republicans, and the remaining 39 went to smaller parties or independent candidates, including France's first ever Basque nationalist.
It's always weird seeing the right labeled blue and the left labeled red. That's not weird. That is just like how it is in the broader majority of Western Europe and Europe in general. For the rest of the world, red is a sign of communism. Red means, that's why in America even they say like, oh, better dead than red. That's very normal. America, we do things differently. The Red Scare. Like even during the Cold War, we had an understanding that like red meant revolution, red meant communism, red meant socialism. Anyway.
Deputy to complement the political resurgence of the Basque Nationalist Party in Spain. Turnout was also extraordinarily high, coming in at nearly 60% as of 5 p.m., the highest since 1981. Regardless, this result didn't go down too well with the National Rally. Their would-be Prime Minister described the result as a stitch-up, and French Twitter has been full of clips of National Rally supporters reacting to the exit poll. Now, at first glance, this looks like a massive win for Macron. His basic thesis that people vote for the National Rally as a protest vote, but don't actually want them in power, has apparently been proven correct. And not only that, but his alliance have also massively outperformed expectations. However, they still lost nearly 100 seats, and Macron now has the extraordinarily difficult job of building a majority coalition.
Oh, poor guy, dude. Poor guy. He's just step aside.
Which will require multiple parties from across the political spectrum. If this coalition fails, Macron will be blamed for the ensuing instability, and the National Rally will be able to present.
Who the f told me to watch the TLDR news article? Like there were at least like 50 chatters in here that were like, you have to watch this coverage. It's so brilliant. Okay. I'm sorry. This is like not exactly great. And this is not my strong suit. Like I will say I'm way more confident in my understanding of like British politics than I am of like French politics. But god damn, dude, this shit is like, this is kind of ass overall.
Present themselves as the only real opposition going into the presidential elections. If you want to learn more about the French and European elections, then we have articles discussing both topics in Too Long, our 60-page high-quality magazine.
Okay. You know, it's just like, we could have spent time literally doing French hogwatch, okay? We could have spent better time. You could have had a better use of time subscribing so that at the top of the hour when the 3-minute ad break comes, you don't miss a beat, okay? How do you say hog in French? Like pig, because that's what we're going to be moving on to right now. French hogwatch. Okay? Porc, cochon. How would you say hogwatch? Porc, cochon, le hogwatch. Oui, oui.